3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasing the Racing, episode 53.
Did you almost forget that?
53. I tell you what, I did get wrong. Last podcast, I opened up with episode 51 when it was actually episode 52. So we're back on track. And this one is definitely episode 53.
And I messed up the one time before that. You know, obviously we're talking about the classic TT.
Aye.
And how Dean Harrison swapped teams.
Yep.
Now, I thought it was last year when Dean Harrison won and Sega came second. I was totally wrong. It's Dave O'Johnson who won last year. So, because obviously Dean Harrison binned it on the 250, didn't he? So I've been getting my years totally wrong. So Greenall got the second the following year before that. So not 19, the 18 year.
So just
getting
all
the mistakes out the way. There you are.
Yeah,
That's what my parents said. We're trying to get our mistakes out the way. But
and for those that are just tuning in maybe for the first time, welcome to the podcast. Sat opposite me, Dom the Bomb Herbertson.
And, well, and a part of the other part of the world is Chrissy Rouse. How we're doing, young'un? What's it like on planet Chrissy?
Yeah, well, obviously, we've just been listening to the what's it called? The Boris, update, Corona update.
Yeah.
And there's been a slight lifting, but it's quite unsure exactly what the crack is. I think more people are getting back to work, and it's kind of, rather than stay at home, stay alert.
And by the way, sorry, if you are a new listener, we are far from politically driven whatsoever at all on this show, but it's obviously all about bikes. But considering we have nothing to talk about with bikes, you've picked the wrong time to listen to a podcast. Now, let's be honest. They are.
Just before we get started, we have actually got a sponsor for the podcast. Do you want to introduce?
Yes, TT Isle of Man Picks there. Absolutely brilliant. Now, he's a big fan of the show, big fan. And he's obviously he's got poor taste in hats. He bought one of my Dom the Bomb hats and he looked brilliant in it. Absolutely brilliant. But no, he's kindly come on board. Now, this is terrible. He has sponsored a pod before. Now, I couldn't tell you exactly which number, but he is kindly going to give a giveaway on the next one. Now,
fabulous.
So obviously the Isle of Man restrictions are lifting a little bit on their behalf. So obviously post is going to start flowing back and forth. But no, he's picked a fantastic image. I'm not going to tell you. I'll show you when it does arrive. But it was from last year's TT, and it is an absolute corker of a one. So the idea is he's going to give it to us, Chrissy, and we're going to select a giveaway method. Obviously, we'll
share this podcast. Do you want to do that? Or are you coming up with something a bit more original?
Well, I'm just thinking it may not turn up for ages, you know, obviously with the times we're living in and all that stuff. So I think we'll leave that close to the time. But obviously he's kindly sponsored this pod, and obviously give him a check or give him a look out on Twitter at IOMTTPicks. He's also got Facebook and Instagram. But no, fantastic quality work, really.
Great photographer, isn't he?
And I tell you what, I hope he doesn't tell his wife, but he does get about on that Isle of Man, I'm telling you. He gets to every circuit, and you just think, how have you even got there to get a photo? Mm-hmm. His work is absolutely brilliant. But no, thank you very much for sponsoring this pod, my man. Thank you very much.
Excellent. So, coming later on in the podcast, we've got the interviews of two Craigs. We'll start with privateer racer Craig Neve, and then later on in the show we've got Captain Kawasaki, Craig Watson, with a little update about something Kawasaki are doing alongside Manx Radio for TT week this week. But you'll hear more about that later on. Anyway, before we get going, have you had any much crack from the week? Have you been up to much?
I tell you what, right? It's just typical, isn't it? No, okay, sorry. Answer your question really quickly there. Now it's been happening. But have you noticed how mint the weather's been?
I know, I've been so lucky, especially for those people that are either furloughed or who can't enjoy the weather at the moment, working outdoors or whatever.
Totally agree. Because imagine being in this situation and obviously everyone is staying at home, but imagine being proper locked in because it was like biblical rain outside and everything. But it's been lucky for that part of it. But for us racers, Chrissy, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth, isn't it?
No.
And any bike fans out there, you know, everyone else is getting tans and all sorts. But hey, you're going to piss with the dick you've got, can't you, Chrissy?
Absolutely. I tell you what, I was incredibly lucky, especially with the weather. I actually got a van job right at the top of Scotland, the back end of this week. So
all the way up the Highlands, mate.
Right up to the Highlands, yeah. So me and Dad had a road trip up, and we ended up doing a couple of days, and we basically went right the way up to the top. and then
What, John O'Groat's top?
Right, yep, we got John O'Groat, and then we took the scenic route back, so we went across the north coast and down the west coast, so like, no, the north coast 500 route.
Oh, aye. Wait,
It's been on my bucket list, and as we were up there anyway, I thought it would be the perfect opportunity. And
I don't blame you,
mate. Due to coronavirus, there was absolutely nothing on the roads whatsoever. So we're absolutely blitzed round, and what a beautiful run that is for any, especially bike fans, people who have, like, whether you're going to do it in a car or bike, but I think on a bike it would be amazing. Some of the roads are like unbelievably narrow, but the views are incredible, and so the beaches up the north coast, down the west coast, it was literally phenomenal, once in a lifetime thing. And
I've done a bit of work up there.
Stick it on the bucket list. Where have you been?
Well, one of my sponsors, I've do a bit of work from Southwest Arb, and I tell you what, you can't believe the mentality of the people up there. They are totally, it's like Bernard's watch packed in up there. It's brilliant, and I was doing an emergency job, so they've got bi-directional lines, which means they don't have a lot of infrastructure, so they've got to take turns using the trains. And bear in mind, a train will be lucky to go through these part of Network Rail like twice a week, if that, so they take turns anyway. But there was an emergency landslip, so they go around and inspect it as much as they can. But basically, this huge embankment was given in, and they had hundreds and hundreds of tons of timber. And we turned up, big emergency teams. We had all this equipment, full tractors, bandits. We had like 20 Scotsmen, like lined up, ready to go. And we turned up at this farm, and you just think, now, I'm going to use an example here. I'm not picking on the Southerners again, trust us. But like, I was working down in Coventry, and you can imagine there's many different bits of land that belong to different people.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to get permission to access like a half a mile straight is nigh on impossible. And people have got to be paid off for, like, damage to land, and it's a chew on. It takes literal months to get access for such a small stretch of woodland.
Mm-hmm.
But in Scotland, in the Highlands, John O'Groat's area, right, this farmer and the family just seeded the whole field, like in a hat, and it was just like, it was like something out of a war film, mate. We turned up and said, right, we need to get access over there. And he goes, oh, well, what are you doing with the firewood? And he goes, he says, oh, do you want it? He goes, oh, I know, no problem. I'm talking 20 Scotsmen, 15 tractors, bandit chippers and everything. And he just went, yep, just go straight across the crop. We must have wrote off, I'm not even exaggerating, any farmer listening to this, we must have knocked off 20 grand off this guy's property. Mm-hmm. And he just went, poof. And it was like, are you sure? I had to get him to fill in a bit of paper going, are you definitely sure about this? And he just thinks, oh no, if jobs have to be done, they have to be done. What a wonderful part of the world that is. I'll never forget that. But mind you, he must have got around about, 50 grand's worth of firewood. He wasn't stupid, that lad, I'm telling you. But anyway, that was my boring job. Sorry there, Chris.
No. But like I say, just an amazing road trip, and I would definitely recommend anybody go up. Actually, while I was up there, I called in, do you know how I sold that Concept 2 rotor on eBay?
I managed to pick... I'm like sitting across a bloody Del Boy here. All right, Rodders. Hey up.
Well, obviously with...
I didn't know he was from Yorkshire. Sorry about that. There you can. Hey up, Rodders.
But I managed to actually pick up a Concept 2. I bought a Concept 2 up in... It was like halfway up in Inverness. And so... Obviously,
you fitted in a hell of a lot in this, your dad's job. I tell you what, I bet your dad was loving you. Can you just pull over here?
Yeah, it was on the way. And so yeah, we'll see how that one gets on. But I tell you what, just before we start with the interviews, I mentioned on the last podcast about my great gran who'd got
corona.
Yeah, she's got coronavirus. She's actually made it out. She's 91 years old, and she's made it out of quarantine. So she's done the full 2 weeks.
Crap!
And I think once you get past the 2 week mark, that's you've sort of. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, you've been given the clear.
Yeah. So absolutely amazing.
Wow.
And she had an amazing life, my gran. She's originally from Austria. And she met my granddad during
the Germans.
Yeah. So as a child, I've spoken to her about it. Some of her class, the Jewish people in her class just started going missing, but nobody realised why. And obviously Auschwitz, and then obviously there was the war. Her father went off, and the Russians invaded. And I've only just found this out, sort of speaking to my mum about it. But the Russians invaded Vienna, where she lived. and the Russian soldiers took over her house, and her and her mum and the rest of the family had to go and live in the cellars, in the basement, and the Russian soldiers were raping all the women from that area, and the only reason my gran and her mother didn't get raped was because she had really bad psoriasis at the time, and the Russian soldiers.
Are you winding me up here?
No. The Russian soldiers thought it was a disease. Like her mom said, it's a disease and it can get spread, so they left them alone. And then when the British came over, I think they were like they were at some sort of dance, and my gran was only 18 years old at the time, met my granddad, couldn't speak English, and he proposed. When he left to come home, he proposed to her. And
where was your granddad from at this point?
Newcastle. He
From
was a
Burnfield. She probably thought, well, he can't speak English either. That we're probably built for each other.
So my granddad came back over, and my gran left all of our family and everything, came over here, and where we're sat, it's a stone's throw. Do you know the first house in my estate? That's where they moved into, and obviously the rest is. But that's the reason I'm here, and it's so she's been through an amazing amount.
You've got a bit of a German look about you, Chrissy. It's that jawline.
Austrian.
You throw me off. Austrian, whatever you bloody are.
So that's
bit of European fantasy in you.
Me great
grandma.
shoes. So amazing woman, amazing life, and I am really pleased to see her through. But obviously, I still can't see her because she's in a care home. But I really hope that things lockdown's lifted a little bit sometime soon, and we can go down and see her. But
no, tough and
lucky
woman there. So no, that is absolutely awesome news. But right, let's bring
back
this
to
on
bike racing.
Yeah, back to bike. Let's bring this down, and then let's pass this on to our very own, very, 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 very tall Craig Neve. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the brilliant pleasure of introducing my arch nemesis on the track, Mr. Craig Neve. How the hell are we, son?
Hey, boys. Yeah, I'm really good. Yourselves?
Not too bad. How's lockdown treating you?
Yeah, okay. I think obviously we're all gagging to go racing, aren't we? But yeah, it's okay. Just sort of trying to keep my head down and just be ready for whenever we get the green light, really.
Oh, good man. I'll tell you what, so obviously for our listeners, now, what's been good is that we've been speaking to loads of different types of people, haven't we? We've been speaking to rock stars, current rock stars, ex-rock stars, and something that we've lost track of is the privateer section, Chrissy. I think that's fair to say, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I think Craig Neve, I'm not going to think it, I know it. Craig Neve is very much a rising star in this racing community. I'm telling you, without a doubt. Now, the little background on him, we'll go into your detail. Obviously, you're the guest, Craig, and we can talk about it. But, he's currently done like Stock 1000. He's a Macau Grand Prix rider, top runner at the TT, serious fast lad at the Northwest, and just an all-round nice guy. And he's not hard to look at. He's got it all.
No,
he's got it all.
No, speaking of the Northwest, I think it's around this sort of time that you would. Is it next week or something that you would usually be packing up to go there? And obviously, the first time that I really came across your name big time was your big off at the Northwest last year. Now, do you want to talk us through that incident?
Yeah, it'd been a sort of really good year up until then. I sort of saw it as things were going to start to sort of improve, and I was hoping to close the gap on the sort of top 10 guys who are proper doers on the roads. And job had started off well. I brought 2 new crew members into the team, just running our own little setup. Testing had gone really well. BSB had gone really well for me, and I was feeling really good going to the Northwest. Obviously, a week before the TT, and it's a fantastic event, the Northwest, and we all love it, but we always see that as like the big sort of run up until the TT. It's what it's sort of known as. So anyway, practice has gone well Tuesday night. We were sort of in and around the top 10. I thought, get away in that first wave, and then sort of out can happen in the slipstream. So that's job done Tuesday. Got to Dominic knows he's laughing at it's madness, isn't it? That slipstream madness. But so we get to Thursday, qualifying in the morning. Again, little steady improvement. Job was good. Looking forward to the Thursday night races. And we got to the 600 race, which for me at the moment, while I'm sort of still learning the big bike a little bit, I see the 600 as probably one of my strongish classes.
That's a bit of a shock, actually. Now, you see, I've only started to get to know Craig we've started to race against with him. You know, like over the last 3 years, I've really started to get to
Yeah,
know you.
yeah.
Now, now that's the best thing about this show is that we get to go and find out where you've come from specifically. Now, let me just quickly describe you. I have described him as a good-looking lad, but how tall are you? 7'8" or something daft like that?
Hey, I was good looking before I got this Corona haircut, but a lockdown shop. Yeah. No, I'm 6'3". I'm 6'3". I am. Yeah.
Big for a bike racer, that innit? Like,
not
bear in mind we're all like little jockeys, most of us. So
yeah. Hey,
six something.
Yeah.
But that's a bit rough for me, mine, because you're saying the 600 suit you more. Now, obviously, that doesn't really tend to work well. You'd think you would naturally, because if you're gigantic, above average size as a human being, you'd be more drawn to big bikes.
Yeah, I was a little bit taller as well. I've got a few sort of crushed vertebrae now, with the cartilage has gone, so I'm a little bit shorter, but than I was. So, but no, I spent a little bit of time in Supersport. I think probably 3 seasons, sort of in and out of the championship, doing the best we could.
This is a British level, yeah.
Yeah. I rode a Triumph for 2 years, and then we had a Honda for the last year. That sort of finished me off. It was a little bit of a mistake running that Honda, but yeah. And that's probably maybe why I just feel at home on the 600. And then we got this ZXR, and I love the bike. It's not. We'd all love a little bit more horsepower. Don't get me wrong. And you've got to be realistic with what you can do. But yeah, it's a fantastic little package. And at the moment, I see the 600 as. I think it's more like you'll know yourself, Dom. Like at the TT, I feel a little bit more like you're riding the 600, whereas the big bike's riding you. If that makes sense. I feel like you can ride it to its limit a little bit more. Does that make sense to you?
I totally agree. Now, obviously, we're going to quit. We're not going to leave this subject alone, your big crash. Now,
no.
Obviously, on the footage, mind, you were properly dishing out the portions, a phrase that we picked up down in London. But you were properly dishing out the portions to, like, Gary Johnson, who was on it, like a full Motec, ex-Lee Johnson, what team was that at the time? No, East
RAF,
Coast Construction. No, it was...
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so it was an ex-Lee Johnson full rocket ship of a bike, and
full whiskey,
young'un, and you were absolutely howling in that race.
It was a proper thing. That thing Gaz was on. So we got away all right. I took a little bit too long to pass Sweeney, to be fair, and that thing of his was a missile. Took a little bit too long to pass Michael, and then. I could sort of just see Hutchie and Jamie Coward in the distance all the time, and it was like I was taking a 10th out, and then they'd maybe pull a little bit back on me, and it was like toing and froing all the time. And I felt as though I was on my own at the time. But in the laps up to that, I saw Gaz run on at Metropole, so he'd run on, and we'd all sort of gone past, and I thought, well, I ain't seen the last of him, and I knew he'd be sort of, if he was behind me, I knew he'd be able to gain on me at some time in the race. So anyway. I felt as I was on my own for 3-4 laps. I had a 6-lap race. I just kept my head down. I kept just aiming at trying to catch Jamie and Hutchie, and I could just see him all the time. But the gap was just never. And I kind of thought, maybe this is me. And I see the pit board. I think it was P7, P8, and I thought this would be my first international top 10. So I thought, we've got loads more racing to do this week and next week. Let's just calm down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. The worst thing you can say to yourself.
Yeah, but I was feeling good. I was, best I felt. We've done so much riding, and I was feeling really good. So, I think we get the last couple of laps. Anyway, I can hear this Triumph getting closer to me all the time in the slipstream. It's like it sort of sucks you back, and I thought, I know exactly who that is. And then it come past me about 5-10 mile an hour faster, and I thought, right, let's just tuck back in the slipstream. Then I passed him back, and it went on for ages. And we had a good dice. We had a good dice for the last couple of laps, and I did really struggle to sort of hold the toe a little bit, though. It was that much faster. And I was thinking all the time. Go on, Dom. Sorry.
Oh no, sorry, no. I'm just getting involved in the story now. Obviously, we have to break it down now. When you look at what is a fast ZX6 like brake horsepower wise? You're looking immediate
like 130ish
kind of thing. Now, the Triumphs are rumoured to have just shy of the 140 mark.
Oh, it's nuts. We always, I don't know about you, but when we get to the Northwest, we always put our bike on John O'Grady's dyno just to give it a little run. And I always say to him, I say, right, so we usually come off the 128, 127, and that's sort of realistic, sort of number. And I always ask, what's the best you've seen? What's the best you've seen on a 600? And I don't like to say, he said, look, I've seen a ZX6 here. I think it was Hillier's bike. To me, like 140. So
holy shit.
Yeah, same meeting, same day, 10 horsepower on a 600. It's nuts, isn't it?
Massive, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a missile. So anyway, you got to kind of accept it. But all the time I'm dicing my gas, I'm thinking, all right, the bike hasn't quite got the minerals, but this wasn't my best motor. I knew I had a better motor for the TT, which obviously is more important to me. So we saved it for the TT. So I wasn't too bothered about. It was just nice to be dicing with them boys, to be totally honest. So I wasn't too bothered about. I thought, let's just get to the end. Anyway, so we're toing and throwing back and forth. And I didn't notice at the time, but Gaz had actually ran through one of the chicanes to catch me and didn't stop in a stop box. So he'd actually got a 10-second penalty. So the whole thing was irrelevant. The whole thing. You know what I mean? So just...
no, bollocks to that. It doesn't matter.
You still want to beat him on the road, don't you?
Yeah, still want to beat him on the road. Exactly.
Yeah, no, you're right. So I mean, we got sort of on the run. He was in front on the last lap. He was in front of me into Metropole. So he turned in. I thought, right, last chance, Juniper chicane. So I just thought I would just sit tight on him through underneath Black Bridge, and I sort of just turned in, and the front's just gone so light. It's like just like what I can imagine, like riding on ice is like. It was like I haven't lost the front like that for many years, you know, and felt like I was well within my limits. But anyway, the front's gone, and I just thought we're in a bit of bother here. And I'm just going towards the curb, and then the bike's sort of moved the curb protection out of the way, and then my knee's just gone into the curb.
What gear do you think you're in going round that?
Fourth gear, we go fourth, yeah. But we looked at the logging afterwards, so it was 124 when I'd actually parted company, and he's straight on the curb. There's no runoff, is there? As you know. So. Yeah,
that was the same corner. If people are following their race in Northwest history, that was the corner that Ryan Farquhar got like career-ending injuries.
Yeah.
He got like Dan Cooper in it, where Dan Cooper actually unfortunately he can't go anywhere. It's that fast of a corner. Dan Cooper fully ran over Ryan Farquhar, and you just think it is so fast. And the fact that how you can even walk, but we can talk about your rehabilitation thanks to.
So obviously you nailed your knee. What exact damage did you do in there?
Injuries wise, we've done basically all the ligaments. So ACL, PCL, LCL, lateral collateral was the one I've had a lot of problems with on the rehab, and the MCL, which is the inside one. So it was a full set with torn meniscus.
That sounds like Dom's prescription down at the sexual health clinic.
Yeah, I know. He's there once or twice a year, isn't he? Or is it once
Hey, you can't. You can't joke about sexual health. You've got to stay on top of these things, mate. You've got to stay on top. Getting
much done with this lockdown, will he? Plenty of time locked inside his bedroom when he's not on the chainsaw. Yeah.
Why did you go to the woods? Nice
and quiet. No one to disturb you. Yeah.
What was like the rehab time and stuff for that?
It's always worrying at the start because I was in Al McGavin Hospital in Ireland, and the doctors down there, they're sort of telling you, you're not going to walk for 2 years and things, and you're never going to race again, And I'm thinking, bloody hell, I'm at the TT next week. Well, I kind of had to accept that it just wasn't going to happen, unfortunately. And at one time, I was thinking, I'm going to be lucky to keep my leg here. So, in all fairness, I got in touch with Ben Wilson as soon as possible. Because luckily Ben was over in Ireland and he was a good help to me. Obviously, what injuries he's been through over the years. He put me in touch with some. Sorry, Dom.
Did he sustain his injury at the Northwest as well?
Yeah, it was at the Mill Road roundabout. He's having I think it was a cracking doing qualifying. He was right in the mix and hit false neutral, went straight over the roundabout. Yeah, I actually rode through that. It was literally right near the end of the session, like my crash. Yeah, so. Bit of a gutter, but so Ben come down to see me in the hospital, bought me a load of Lucasade, a load of porn and stuff just to keep me motivated. but we had a bit of a crack and discussed a bit of a plan, and he got me, he put me in touch with Dr. Kirkovic, who's famous obviously for saving Hutch's leg. He said, you don't need me. I'm a bone man. You don't need a bone guy. You need somebody who was ligaments. It was kind of a little bit more involved than sort of, I know it sounds crude, but when they're putting the bones together, they're just screwing and plating and things like that. The ligaments take a little bit more finesse, don't they? It's a different kind of surgery. So, and the ligaments obviously take a lot longer to heal than bone. So anyway, got in touch with the right people, got back to the UK, and we sort of had to try and make a plan. I was thinking, right, okay, Mr. TT, gutted. Next plan, Classic TT. We've got to look at that. 14 weeks, basically. I was thinking, 14 weeks.
That's nothing. When you say it like that, that actually sounds nothing. Like
No.
when you look at the calendar, you think there's a huge gap between the beginning of the Northwest and the Classic. 14 weeks. That's terrifying.
I was 14 weeks since my surgery when I rode at the Classic, but I think I had 2 weeks. 2 weeks back in England, I was seeing a couple of doctors because I had to make sure that we got a really good surgery and a really good surgeon and one that was directed towards riding again, not just walking again. It had to, I had to be able to race again. That's kind of all been for nothing. So, so anyway, we found the right guy. He gave me some stuff to do. He said, look, I told him what my plan was. He says, you're absolutely crazy. And, I'm sure you hear it. I know I was listening to Steve Plater's podcast and he was saying the doctors say it all the time, but it's just the way it is with bike races, isn't it? But yes, he says, you're absolutely crazy if you're even thinking about that. But, if that's what you want to do, here's a plan. So we had a couple of weeks and he said, look, you're looking at maybe 2-3 surgeries. If you do this, it's not going to be very nice, but if you do these exercises and bits and bobs, we can do it in one surgery, hopefully. So, I had to try. So I'd done all this stuff he'd told me and more. And luckily we got it in one surgery, which ultimately helped the recovery time. So we made it. We made it to the Classic, 14 weeks. It was very, very grim and painful, but we made it.
Bloody hell.
And obviously, I've been down at Aidan's place down at in Doncaster, and obviously seen your picture. I know that you work with Aidan. Did you get in touch with Aidan straight away? And were you already working with him? Or
Aidan Robinson at ITR MCs a lot of the guys in the paddock because he's the best in the business, basically, and that's why everybody goes to him, as you boys both know. Aidan, I've known him. I've probably been working with him for about 3 seasons now. Got to know him through Joe Sheldon Shaw. But yeah, I've been working with him on a few other aches and pains and stuff I got. But I mean, when I was in hospital in Ireland, I was straight onto him. I was like, right, here's what's happened. Full list of injuries. What can we do? What you know what I mean? Just as much advice and everything as what it's like trying to fast track the job. And it's just like, when can I get back on the bike? But yeah, great bloke. And there's no doubt I probably wouldn't have even made Macau if we hadn't have done the stuff. I mean, I was there every day almost in and around doing the hyperbaric stuff and the cryo freezing and all that sort of stuff. I was at Aidan's. It was exhausting, but he was prepared to put the work in. So I was.
But no, like you say, Aidan, he's just, if he told you, right, Dominic, I want you to chop your foot off and fasten it to your ear, you would. He's actually 100%. That trustworthy as a human being. It's phenomenal. So now you're a self-employed lad yourself, aren't you?
Yes.
Now I bet that was fun, mind, between doing hyperbaric chamber, bike racing, and all that. So how do you manage with all that?
Jesus, mate. I mean, it's just.
What do you do for graft?
I'm an electrician, just like your father. Yeah, I had a pleasure of meeting your dad at the XL, didn't I? The mad inventor. Yeah, he's some boy. Some boy. But yeah, I'm a lucky. So even thinking about the stuff I did back then. Now you're fit. It's just like exhausting thinking about it. I'm just thinking, how the heck did we do it? But you're just driven on one thing, and I'm trying to get to the Classic because my bike's mega competitive at the Classic, and obviously Davo won the Classic as my teammate, obviously, so we know how competitive the bike was. And I just didn't want to lose my seat. I really didn't want to lose my seat.
Who do you ride for at the Classic?
Yeah, it's Alistair Cowan Racing up from Scotland. Mega bike, probably one of the best turned out ZXR 750s there. We've done quite a lot of testing as well this year at the start of the year. So I've gone to Thundersport and we've won all the races. We've done Brands and Snetterton. And we've done the lap record in both classes, which was good. And I kind of expected to do a good result there, but it was important for me because I thought, I wonder how quick them boys were going, like in the 90s riding these bikes. And we were sort of right on the money with the lap times. And I was thinking, yeah, okay, no, not so bad. So yeah, and I was kind of thinking, right, do a good TT, a few more miles under my belt, and then hopefully, if we can finish the race, I can be somewhere near the podium at the Classic. That was my sort of big aim for the season, but obviously we had to readjust the plans.
Now, where did you end up with the Classic TT then?
I finished ninth. I finished ninth, which
bearing in mind you've just had a brand new knee put on.
Yeah,
so well done.
Thank you, thank you very much. It kind of seemed forget about it, don't you? I was quite emotional after the race. I was emotional because obviously Alistair, Davo had won. Alistair was chuffed to bits, and I was chuffed for them boys. I was emotional because I didn't expect to make it to this event, and I put everything into it, and it was so painful riding the bike. We had a couple of problems in practice week with a bike, and it was an emotional time. And I was thinking, right, I'm far from back and I'm far from fit, but I mean, people think, I was a little bit maybe naive, and I was trying to come back, and I was thinking, right, all I need to do is just bend my knee 90 degrees, and I can just sit on the bike. But when you lose a little bit of mobility, it's surprising how much you push on the pegs and use the pegs, isn't it? And use your legs, So, but hey, we're back, and it could have been a lot worse, couldn't it?
As Dom referenced earlier, obviously, it's great to have a privateer on the show. When we first started, that was kind of one of the main things.
He's up there with Slipstream, Murphy, Forrest Dunn. He's in that line right now.
It is at the end of the day, it's the foundations of racing. Privateer lads like yourself. I'm just interested to know exactly the sort of like how you put together your team. Obviously, I see you run your own team, and you pull in the sponsors, and it's a lot more work than simply signing for a team and just turning up and riding. So do you want to just talk about like the type of preparation that goes into it, what bikes you have?
Have you ever met his dad? You ever met his dad? He looks like a right-handed lad. This lad doesn't have to worry about sponsorships. He just sends his dad round. Go
like how you put your team together and who you work with.
Okay, yeah. So we run our own team under CN Racing, basically, like a lot of people, just with their initials. I've sort of gone through. Started off with me and my dad, and we've sort of grown a little bit from there. We've pulled in a lot of local sponsors. Well, I say a few local sponsors, and a lot of the time it's due to people who I do a bit of work for, who maybe feel a little bit sorry for me and say I'm trying hard. They try and chuck me a few quid just to help me along the way. So that's sort of how we've done it over the last couple of seasons. In 2018, I signed for a team, and I thought, you know what, this is going to be a little bit of a step forward for me, because we didn't want to be working on the bike so much anymore. I wanted to concentrate on the riding a little bit, bit more.
The Jackson Racing team, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that
it
year,
was.
2008.
Yeah, it was. In 2017, I think it was 17. Lee Johnson split from the team, and I got a little bit of a ride on the superbike at the TT that year. I don't know if you can remember that, Dom. So we got a ride.
What team was that then?
Same team. Yeah, he went with what happened with Lee? I think he ran his own bikes in the end.
All right, bit of drama. I've totally forgot about this. There we are.
But then
when he was on. That was it. Yes, he was on. Lee was riding for Jackson Racing, and then and then you got the ride from there, and then it carried on for the following year, didn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
Yeah, so later when I got a bit deeper into the job, I could kind of see why that happened. But anyway.
Do tell.
So all in good time, buddy. All in good time.
Good man.
Yeah. So we started. 18 started off well. Let's go back to 18. Started off okay. Started running our own jobs, and Michelin tyres come in this year. And from doing Thundersport the year before, Michelin had a cracking tyre with Lee Williams, and they were dominating, to be fair, and it was a good tyre. Anyway, they come to me. They was obviously trying to get into the market a little bit. Obviously, it's flooded with Metzler and Dunlop. So they're trying to come into the market. Obviously, I was coming through a little bit of the TT at the time. I was sort of, maybe top 25, top 20 if we was lucky. And they said, look, we want to come to your tyres this year, all FOC, as much as you want, basically, all within reason, obviously. So I said, wow, mega. What tyre bill costs for the year, boys, and I was thinking, this is mega. This could be the start of something for me. So anyway, I took it open-minded, I took it on board, did everything they said, and basically it was a good tyre, but just for the roads, maybe not quite where it needed to be. Maybe needed a little bit more development. But we'd already started the TT by this stage in 18, so this was like practice week. Obviously, Lee had split with them boys, and I had a bit of a go on the superbike, and I thought, yeah, okay, right, let's keep going. There was a couple of boys in the team I was really keen to work with, though, which was Mark Hanna and Derek Huxley on the data side of things, which was an area where I'd not really been before, and I wanted to experiment and stuff and see, obviously, why all these top teams got data guys. It's obviously the way we need to go. So anyway, I worked with the boys on the superbike. We had a first superbike race on a Saturday. I had no brakes when Craig Neve. Yeah, which was there is a video of that on YouTube, which looks funny now, but at the time it was.
It's definitely funny. It was funny when it first came out,
Yeah,
and it's still funny now.
I mean, I laugh watching it, but then watching it from as a spectator. But when you're hearing it towards that little wall, and I actually landed when I done the front flip, I landed right in between two stakes, and you can't see that the advertising banner. So I was very lucky. I mean, I was unlucky not to have no brakes. But yeah. So anyway, could have done without that. So that sort of
that was a bit of an eye opener.
Yeah, well, that was on the second lap, and I'm thinking, bloody hell, there's 4 laps worth of practice to me gone there. That's 4 laps of experience I've lost. So I've a stupid bloody. I don't even know what the issue was, but I had no front brake. So that was that. And then we done the superbike race on the senior after that. And yeah, obviously we've got a few issues sorted. Gone a little better on. I think we had a practice on a Wednesday night. Gone a little better. We'd actually swapped from Michelin tyres to Metzeler tyres in the middle of this week just to give me a little bit more confidence on the bike. And straight away, I was like, wow, yeah, straight away. I had feeling with the front tyre, and I was like, all right, this is meant, we're off, So I was feeling good going to the superbike race. Yeah, I think it was the race, if you remember, Hutchie had that crash just going onto the mountain mile, so it got red flagged. Do you remember that, Dom? Yeah.
I did. There was a bit of footage of Dave Johnson riding through there on the Norton, and he just misses him. By God, he just misses him. We're getting loads of good YouTube footage out of you, Craig. Here, we're getting loads. You're just making lockdown all the easier. You're a great guest. You're a great guest.
Yeah. So, but from the start of that race, I had this bit of. The bike was really powerful. It was a fast bike. It was a 10 Honda. Apparently it was Nicky Hayden's World Superbike. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's what it was led to believe. Anyway, it was really powerful, and it was a strong bike. Maybe too much power, because I had this pumping feeling with a shock from the start of that race, and I just wondered if maybe we damaged something in the crash earlier in the week. I don't know. It was a heavy front end impact, so possibly not. But anyway, so I had this pumping. I thought, well, we're in now. We're going. And there's nothing we can do. We've just got to make the best of it. So obviously it got red flagged. Now I'm like, right. Obviously, I hope everyone's okay. But we've got another shock. We've got a chance to get back, get it chucked in, and have another go. But basically, the front guys got back round, got to make a change. If you remember, Dunlop changed his shock and then went and won the senior, didn't he? And the Bill Bay Suzuki that year. So obviously, I wasn't going to win the race, but I was just hoping for something a little closer to 130. But anyway, so I got back, and literally when like the backmarkers myself got back, it was a quick turnaround. So we never got a chance to change.
Very modest to refer to yourself as a backmark, I would say. Far from it.
Hey, I've just been realistic, buddy. But so we got back, and it's quick turnaround. So it was like, right, we've got. They tried a few things with the clickers, and it wasn't a lot better. But I think we finished 23rd, 25th, maybe something like that. But hey, you put it down to experience, and we come back again next year. So that led us in. Sorry.
What sort of lap times were you doing in 2018?
I think I'd done a 27. I think I'd done a 27. So yeah, it was a little improvement from the year before. I think I'd done a 25 the year before. So yeah, steady steps, and I felt like I was well within my limits all the time. Yeah. We'd actually had a 13th on the 600 as well, which I was mega happy with in the middle of the week. That was, if you remember, the second race got cancelled. That was the first race, and we made a lot of changes with the bike to suit the Michelin tyre. And then we just made it a lot softer. And then we put the race techs in for the race, which was a bit stupid, really. But I was like, wow, this bike feels night and day better. But it was so soft. So we had a 13th and lost a bit of time in the pits. And I thought, you know what? We'll get this bike dialed out for race 2. We're going to be well in the top 10. You know what I mean? But obviously it got cancelled. So that was that. Disappointing, but just thought, right, we've got a super bike. But so that takes us into 19. So I'm thinking, you know what? I enjoyed working with Mark and Derek in that team. So
he likes a few pints, Mark. That's the guy in London, isn't it?
That's
the guy you were looking on with him in the corner of the bar.
So is that the first year? Is that the first year you worked with Mark Hanna?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, now obviously he's due to work with you, Chrissy, in BSB Superstock this year if we ever get going. So mega bloke, a lot of experience.
I was about to say, I know this is your interview, but briefly explain to our listeners who Mark Hanna is, because if he's working with you and he's working with MSS, this guy is not a mug.
He's gonna have a right semi on listening to this, isn't he?
We're not getting him on though. We haven't got time.
A lot of experience. I think he's worked with Honda Legends. He's done a little spell in MotoGP, Suzuka. He's been around the block, can he? Sorry.
Rizzler Suzuki.
Yeah, Rizzler Suzuki. Yeah, he's been in there. He's been with it. The paddock slag. I call him. He's everyone's had a go.
Now, you see, obviously, you've come from. we actually need to go back further into your history on like how you got into racing. But before we do that, now, you've come from, and you still are at that privateer level. But having someone like that on board, how much confidence have you got with the team now? Now, obviously, it's got, hasn't it? It's got to think this man actually knows what he's doing.
Yeah, 100%. It's good. Because I'm always looking for ways, to move myself forward. And some people do it other ways, some people do it. But I thought it'd be nice if I can bring someone in who's really experienced, who can maybe try. I mean, I always try 100%, but if you can maybe unlock something that just gets a touch more out of me, it's everything's worth a try. You've got to approach it open mind, haven't you? So it's mega. We work really well together, and we sort of, I don't think you've seen the best of us yet, obviously, with what's gone on. And, every year you think, this is the one, this is the big one, don't you? But and I'm thinking that now I'm sat here motivated and ready to sort of pounce when it's go time,
You're not bloody wrong. I think the whole world's feeling like that. But like briefly, just like we briefly touched on it before, but you had a right to put some demons to bed this time this week. That's the thing. We should be at the anchor bar having a couple of pints before practice on Tuesday. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's mad. It's mad, isn't it? Yeah, my dad said to me the other day, he said, it's only about, I think he said it's next week it happened. And I was thinking, bloody hell, yeah, it was only a year ago. And it's like so much has happened since then, and I'm thinking, I'm still not 100% moving my knee. I'm far from it, but we're working on it every day. And I was told, it could be a 2-year, properly recovery until you can actually bend your knee fully again. But obviously we can race and stuff, and it doesn't hold me back on the bike. It did last year because I was weak in the quads and the calves still, but now I've worked on that, and it won't hold me back on the bike.
No, without a doubt. So anyway, how did this dream begin then? Let's go back to the beginning.
Back to the start. 2008, maybe 2009. Pretty much, I've always fancied to go at it. I mean, my dad's done it. Club racing, did nationals. When it was called, I don't know what it was called before BSB. He did the 600 class, the super sport class back then. Done the Manx Grand Prix, things like that. So Scarborough's. So I've always, as a youngster, I always, obviously looked up to my dad and went to the races and, enjoyed, passing the spanners and bits and bobs.
Oh, right. So you're all from like a bloodline of it then?
Yeah, a little bit.
No, yeah. I didn't know your dad was actually, he's obviously a road racer as well as a short circuit man. That's interesting to know.
And pretty handy. And you know what? When I think about it now, and hard times and things like that, and I think he used to work on his own bikes. He used to work 2 jobs. He used to almost race every weekend. I know it didn't cost what it did cost, and somehow he managed to squeeze in sort of 10 pints every night. And I just think, I just don't know how you can I just don't know how he did it when I'm thinking about it. But yeah, he did it, and he was quite handy. He did okay, So that's sort of that's how I got interested in motorbikes anyway, through that. So I sort of thought, how am I going to get into this? Obviously, there's no sort of big cash injection or anything. So obviously, it had to be you leave school, you start work, and that's how it goes, isn't it? And luckily, he had this old nail of an NC30 in the shed. It was a bit of a bitzer, but lovely little bike. And he just said, "Well, what do you reckon? You fancy go on that?" And I mean, I'd never changed gears or done anything like this, and just thought, we'll go to Cadwell. Booked on a track day, and there he was. I thought, this is mint, and let's just make a bit of a plan, And the next year we went racing. We did a full year of 400s, North Gloucester Racing Championship.
So what age would you have been at this point then?
19 maybe.
19, right? Because obviously yourself, obviously being quite the fan of the pod with a man of taste like yourself. We get loads of guests on here that they've been put on a motorcycle at 6 years old and then went straight into racing and everything like that. But no, you started at the tender age of 18. Did you kiss a girl by then, or did you still have your virginity locked in a box, or what's the crack?
Still locked quite away, buddy. Still, late starter, still locked away, buddy. You know what it's like. But yeah, when I just thought, let's make a bit of a plan, and we went for it. So I thought, firstly, got to lose my virginity, and then we've got to do a bit of racing. You know, if you want to drag me into the gutter, Dom, I'll come with you, buddy. You know, so.
Good lad. I know.
No, so yeah. Oh, good mate. Yeah. So obviously a late start, and yeah, don't get me wrong, it'd be mint to start racing bikes 5 years old or whatever. But you know, it's just not an option for us all, is it? You know, so you just got to make the best out of the situation.
And speaking of situations, obviously we're still in this lockdown situation now. The fresh rumour mill we have at the moment is the fact that the Macau Grand Prix for the 2020 season is going ahead. Now, what do you make of that? Because this will be your third visit to Macau if it goes ahead this season. So what's the plan there?
Well, at the minute, it's kind of. I mean, I hope BSB gets going. I really do, because I was thinking about it. I was thinking, well, if BSB don't go and then Macau does. Like, how's that going to work? Are they going to let? Firstly, I'm thinking, are they going to let us all fly from all over the world there? And then, are they going to let us race there, having not done any meetings at all this year? I don't really know how that's going to work. But yeah, I mean, you know, I'll go tomorrow. You're the same, Dom. You'll go tomorrow if we get the call, won't we? You know, we're just desperate to go. So, and especially after last year, I thought we was on for a really good do. Last year, I think, where did I finish? Was it 13th or 14th last year? But yeah, and I was in 9th at the time. Obviously, the big crash happened, and obviously, you know, luckily no one was really badly hurt.
Really hurt, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I was sort of the next. I think I was the next bike to ride. I rid through Rob's crash, and luckily managed to stay away from it. And then I was the next bike, obviously after Big Phil, through that one. And I was, you know, really lucky to not, because it was so tight, and I was thinking, bloody hell. And even your man who come through on the Pens bike afterwards, he managed to collect somebody, didn't he? He was sort of...
He did, he ran over a bike, didn't he?
Yeah, 3-4 bikes behind. But yeah, so... Yeah, and I don't know about you, Don, but I'm just feeling better every time we go there. Obviously, you know, the track's, you know, it's an amazing place. It's an amazing event, and really enjoy the circuit. And I just feel like, you know, you just grow a little bit more every time, don't you? And you can, you know, hopefully start on the times you finished on and then progress from there. And hopefully, you know, we can get ourselves in the top 10 and be mega.
Absolutely, definitely, mate. But so are you going to go back with your own bike again, with your own team?
100%.
Is that the plan?
Yeah, 100%. Having done that job with them boys in 18 and 19, you know, I'm more than happy to 17 and 18. I'm more than happy to run my own bikes, because I know we can do as good a job as anyone, to be honest. We just, it'd be just good if we get a title sponsor. If we get a title sponsor, we could, you know.
Speaking of such things, we do actually get a lot of messages on the social media, and we're on like a Patreon site. One of the really common questions we get is people who are outside of the sport don't really understand like sort of the costs and the preparations that go into it. So as a privateer that does, you know, a bit of BSB for practice, and then the full internationals with you know, your Macau, your Northwest, TT, the full lot. Obviously, not being like cheeky and asking any personal questions, but like just as a sort of a rough guide to the people that are listening, do you want to just give a rough sort of rundown on like approximate costs for, you know, like maybe tire bills and like your season?
Yeah, I can give you it. I don't mind you asking, Chris.
Here we go. He's just going to pull out the A4. Here we go.
Yeah. 2 seconds. I'll just open up the spreadsheet.
Yeah, I've had something more prepared but I could have probably nut and bolted it for you. But yeah, so if you're looking at doing the TT, obviously Northwest first, Ulster, if it was sort of to go like that, you'd be looking at 3 bikes. So you'd be looking really stocker, superbike, super sport. So luckily, I've got 2 BMWs, and we've called one the superbike, one the super stock, but they're both stockers. So if you're looking at building one of them, you're looking at 20 grand just to build a stocker, good stocker. So times 2, superbike, super stock. And then your 600 is probably around the same money, as mad as that is, you know. Yeah. Your 600 is about the same money by the time you've gone through it, TI bolts, you know, done a motor, that kind of thing, you know. So what you got there, 60 grand to start, you know, just before you've done anything. I've got spare engines for the BMWs, which are just stock engines out of road bikes, which are plenty good enough for me at the moment. And then we've got a couple of spare engines.
How much would one stock BMW engine cost? Like stock?
Well, they reckon.
Go on.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've never bought one brand new from BM, but I think they're about 6.5 plus that, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
What brand new from BM?
yeah, brand new.
Right.
You can have as many as you want, Dom, if you've got 6.5.
I'm not an electrician. I can't afford things like that.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, we need to
I
address.
tell you one thing that I've obviously I used to ride a BMW in Superstock, and we once had an issue with I can't remember what part of the engine went. I think the rod came through the front of the casings. I was going flat out down at Silver's, down the Hanger straight at Silver's, and I was probably doing about 160-ish, and all of a sudden there was just like a massive doof, and I still remember the vibrations through the handlebars was that like violent, and a rod came through the front, obviously pissed oil everywhere. I didn't want to brake because I thought I was going to lock, so I just like cruised over. Anyway, it went before it sort of should have. And even though obviously with race engines you don't get any guarantees or anything, BMW replaced the engine free of charge, full brand new engine because it should. And that wasn't a special deal for things. It was which I think that there was an issue with that model. I can't remember the model of engine. They provided a brand new engine, which I thought was extremely good of them.
Yeah, Chris, exactly the same thing happened to me at the Northwest, and it was a Conrod bolt, and they did exactly the same thing for me. They just swapped a motor, flew a motor in, and you would not have got that with any other manufacturer, would you? No. So that was mega. So
you definitely can't argue with that.
Hans and Fritz are nice guys.
Yeah, some engineers and boys, aren't they? But so they've done that for us. So we've got a couple of spare road bike engines which we've just bought out of road bikes. We've never got a spare 7.5 kicking about, or 6.5 or whatever. We've had a couple of engines built by my guy Rich Bakercroft for the 600. He builds a cracking motor for the 600, and he's been building my stuff for the last few years. And he also was going to put us on a twin for the TT this year, which obviously we'll have to shelve till next year. So we've probably got about $4,000 in one engine, and we've got 3 engines basically for the 600 there. So obviously, we need to keep a good, because it hammers them on the roads because you're holding them flat for so long. So luckily we've never had one of Richard's go. So so what we got there, we've got $12,000 in 3 engines there for the 600,
and then a tyre bill. So you're a Metzler man, aren't you? So obviously it's around about the same, really. Metzler and Dunlop, and obviously Michelin, and we give them away. But so each event roughly rounded off, how much are you paying on a tyre bill?
So I think for the TT, when we had that really good weather, and it was mega on it, we were almost wearing engines out and taking off oil with us. I think we've done about 6.5. I think we've done about 6.5.
I was hoping you were going to say that, because that's how much I spent.
It's funny. A lot of people will be listening to this, and like road racing fans and whatever, and people don't actually realise how just tyres, not travel, not 2 weeks off work, not this tyre bill for a week, $6,500. It's, if you think like for somebody that even on a good salary, once you've paid your mortgage, you've paid this, to save $6,500 takes the majority of people a hell of a long time, like £6,500 and that's just tyres. It's
mate. But just saying that 6.5 days just reminded me of something, Dom. Do you remember when we was at the show and we went out for tea, and obviously we were really lucky to do a bit of hanging about with the top stars on there, didn't we? And went out for a bit of crack with Rutter. And I remember, you'll probably not remember because you were smashed, but I remember
sound like me.
we were speaking of Rutter, and obviously I don't think him and McGuinness sort of realised how bad the job is for the likes of me and you, being privateers, and what it costs, because they thought we were maybe taking a bit of a wage and getting a bit more help than we do. So honestly, we was just sat there telling him what it costs and stuff, and we told him. He said, "How much was your tyre bill for a TT?" Oh, about 6.5, $7,000. He spat his fucking Guinness out all over, didn't he? And do you remember though? The best bit about it was at the end of the night, we were all putting our money in to pay the bill, and he said he looks at the bill, he split it up. And then he gave me and you our 30 quid back, didn't he?
He did,
yeah.
What a gentleman that is, isn't it?
And he chucked it back at us like it was a couple of cheap prozzies, didn't he? He said, "Here, boys." He said, "Here, boys, call it sponsorship," didn't he? So, good crack. But
show. Mind, I've
That is brilliant.
just finished Michael's book, and he was talking about budgets and stuff. And there was 1 year in BSB where they ran I think there were Michelins that year, and his tyre bill for a year in British Superbikes was £300,000.
Madness.
That is
300 grand just for tyres, which is
He was on about that. Yeah, he was on about that story when we went on that cable car when he dove over the bridge over the Thames there, and there was different to the Michelins that I was getting. I can tell you now.
Spot on. Now, one thing that I'm interested in, especially speaking to somebody that does a bit of BSB, bit of short circuit racing, undersport and stuff, but also does the road racing, and especially after having such a big crash like you did at the Northwest, I'm just interested in like your psychology and how you approach the different events. Is there a difference between like how far you would be willing to push on like say at Brands Hatch or the Northwest, and do you sort of, like things like the big crash, do you sort of just put that to your back of your mind and just focus on the job, or do you think about the danger before going down Bray Hill?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question, actually. Get asked quite a lot, to be fair, that one. But you sort of answer it a little bit different every time. But I think, when you're setting off down Bray Hill, you're thinking, right, my whole year has been built around this moment. So let's do it proper, do it right. And, nothing else matters apart from what we're about to do, and I'm thinking, right, we waited all year for this. Let's have a good job. And the danger side of things, everyone says the same thing. You never kind of think it's going to be you, do you? You never quite think it's going to be you, and and you don't, do you? And I didn't think it was going to be me at the Northwest, but it was my turn, and it wasn't my turn to go that day. So I just think, you know what, let's just crack on and let's. But I'll tell you something about this whole sort of lockdown thing that's happened. That for me, I know it's terrible what's happened, and it's given me a little bit more time with the knee, as it probably has with you with a shoulder, and you think, you're thankful for that. But I feel a little bit blessed because, like, I just feel thankful for what I have got, and I'm thinking, right, when this is finished, I'm going to get to go back racing. We'll go back racing, and I just feel sort of more motivated than I've ever felt at the moment, and it's given me a chance to do a little bit more. I mean, I've never trained for motorbike racing. I've never done anything like that, and at the minute, having a little bit more time, I've been able to do quite a bit of training. My problem is I've got an overactive knife and fork, so I just end up piling the weight on throughout. Just because working long hours, you're in McDonald's. Yeah. Obviously, that's shut the minutes. That's done me a favour. So you're in, working long hours. It's easy, innit? It's easy. You go get a double Chesney. You're away. I could do 3 or 4 of them in one sitting, easy. But obviously that's shut the minutes. So it's given me more chance to do some training. I feel good, and I just think let's get going, and there's no TT now, but we've got to just get.
It sounds like you need to join mine and Dom's January diet.
Yeah, I'll be up for that.
Spot on.
Hold on. Right, you did get dropped in it the other day about your future plans by one of our guests.
Cool.
Steve Pay. Now, he dropped you well and truly in it. You secret little devil. You're doing you're competing, and you're going to dish out the portions to John McGuinness on the Ducati Tri-Options Cup. Give us about that.
How did that come about?
If McGuinness is motivated, then I think he'll have a mega season in that. If he's motivated, he's that good, isn't he? If he's motivated, he's up for the job, and I think I'll have a mega season. But how did that come about? Well, you know what? I sort of always you look at the TT, and I'm always looking at it, and I'm thinking, well, you got Hickman and Harrison, and then you've got a big gap to third. And then, obviously, they're both mega and fast, and they're doing superbikes, aren't they? Which is obviously helping. So I'm thinking, right, how can we try and do something here to just bring me on in general? And obviously, superbikes, it's not an option. It's, for me, I know we'd be last, but if we could afford to do it, it'd bring me on, like it has Dean. So anyway, not an option, money side of things. So I'm thinking, right, what else is there at BSB? Obviously, we're going to try and do super stock. I wonder if we can just get out in this Ducati Cup and just use it for laps, more track time, and let's just, because Chrissy, you don't get a lot of riding on a super stock weekend, and I'm not going to go at the organisers, at all. But that's just the way it is, and obviously they've done good in the last year or so, bringing these extra laps in. That's been mega in these long races. But still, you want more if you're there for the weekend. And I'm thinking, right, so if I can do them 2 classes, and then I haven't got to do Thundersport, which is another weekend, or NG, it's another weekend, and then I can be at work that weekend, and then, do you know what I mean? So I'm thinking I can do it that way. So I'm sort of doubling up on my riding, less time off the tools, and a few quid. So So that's the method behind the madness. And we bought a bike, Motor Rapido, got a bike through Wilf.
Is he that big southern lad who called us budget ant and deck?
We had Wilf on the podcast last week.
Yeah, I've caught up until that one now, so I'm looking forward to listening to that this week.
He was slagging you off something rotten, mate.
He said 100%.
He rinsed your wallet. He was clapping you out the door. God, fantastic. Mr. Neve there. Out you get, son.
He did, yeah. My credit card was smoking when I went out there. It was nearly set on fire, yeah. Yeah, so that's the job, right, really. I'm just thinking, let's go there. Let's just try and finish the sessions, and if we can be somewhere near, mega result. But let's just go and try and do a good job.
Now, hold on. He tears himself down as much as I do here. So go on. Okay, where do you want to be? Where do you want to be in that championship? Let's be honest. You go dish out some portions to John McGuinness. Now, where can you see yourself? Come on, like top 5 in the tri options.
You know what, mate?
You get points in stock 1,000. You know what I mean?
Only when
listen, this guy bollocks here. Bollocks here. You are not a mug. You are not a mug. You're a highly paid electrician. Yeah, not a mug. No, but I see you really high up in that order, and I think people are in for a shock. And I'm looking forward to seeing you out on that tri options.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck in. I've never rid a bike like that before, so I'm just thinking, it's going to be, totally different, And,
good experience for you.
Sorry?
Good experience for you.
100%. Yeah, should be good. But, I've been realistic, Dom, right? I entered that championship sort of on a really, I'm just thinking, let's just get a bare bike, let's put a system on it, and let's just go and do it. And now I'm finding out people are doing bits to the motors, and, and I'm thinking, fucking hell, maybe should have researched this a little bit more. And I'm thinking, I'm in the shit now. So, but yeah, no, I've got to be realistic. But to answer your question, it'd be lovely to hunt for podiums. I mean, because I've not done that since I was club racing, and that's one thing that really gets you down about VSB. Yeah, I'd love to be as fast as Chrissy at VSB. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not. But I'm trying to be. You know what I mean? But if I could hunt for podiums, that'd certainly. You look at Scott Redding this year. Look at how that's lifted him. I mean, he says in every press conference, hunting for podiums, and it doesn't matter what class it is. I know Ducati is the absolute bottom of BSB, but it is.
No, but it's still in the paddock, though. Come on,
and there's some real fast lads.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be a good competitive championship. I think a few Superstock 1,000 lads are dropping down into that championship next year as well. I know Sam Cox. I think Levi Days as well. So it'll be but like you say, I'm looking forward to seeing you dishing out some portions, and it would be great to pick up a couple of podiums as well. Definitely.
And definitely a Chase the Racing sticker on the back of the bike. We can't wait to see that.
100%, mate. 100%.
It's gonna A3 size, side of the fairing. You know what I mean? You can put your little sponsors underneath.
I'm just trying to get a toe off McGuinness. Yeah. Again, it's slipstream.
Good lad.
Mega.
But no, honestly, Craig, thank you so much for coming on the pod, mate. It's absolutely great to have you. You're a shining light in the privateer world, and keep it up, mate. And looking forward to seeing you smashing up John McGuinness at the first corner.
Hey, boys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, and we'll keep dishing out the portions.
Good lad,
mate. Cheers.
See you soon, boys.
Cheers, Craig.
Bye bye.
So cracking lad, Craig.
What a lovely man, eh? What a lovely man.
I really got to know him well down at the London show. Obviously, we were down in the bar on the night time, and he's a great lad, really, really nice lad, and
not scared of dishing out the portions, that young.
Not at all. He was obviously. He's just sort of building up, and I think he would have been in for a really, really strong year this year. So, but I'm sure he'll recharge the batteries and be, whenever the season is open, I'm sure he'll be fighting fit.
Without a doubt, mate. Without a doubt.
So next we're
I was about to say I had a really good point, but I've totally forgotten it.
What about?
That's terrible. No, yep, there it is. It's suddenly dawned on me. No, but it's obviously, when we first started out this podcast, I mentioned it beforehand, and it's great to get the privateers on. It really is, and it just shows that the biggest problem with media is, no, it's not a problem. Sorry, it's a fact of media, and the fact is you've got to go and aim at the top stars because they are producing the results. They are producing, the stories, and you naturally get drawn into that for the the exposure side of it. So no, it was nice to take a deep breath and take a step back from where our humble beginning, Chrissy, our humble beginning, and how we all got going.
It's great to see somebody that runs themselves. It's their own team, but that presents such a professional image.
Totally.
His helmet done by
HG Concepts,
and it's the bike, the leathers. He's another RST man, isn't he? And he runs a real, like, if looking at him, you wouldn't realize it's
full.
It looks like a full on professional team, and that's really important. And
I totally agree. But see, even like Lee Johnson would class himself as a privateer team.
Yeah,
but that's totally different. You know what I mean? It's about, like, now don't get me wrong. Like,
what do you mean?
Well, no, when Lee Johnson, when he won the TT this year, he was like, we're a privateer team.
Mm-hmm.
Because they haven't got factory back, and people class themselves as privateers.
But he sorts everything out himself as well, though, doesn't he?
Lee. Mm-hmm. Yeah, with his team, yeah. Oh, no, I'm not downgrading Craig whatsoever, but it's all about, like you say, professional.
Lee does that as well. Like, he sort of puts everything together and
Totally. But you know what I mean about that professional riding standard, because like even Gary Johnson, he's been a TT winner himself, and he has ran his own teams. Just because they're not factory, but that's my own personal opinion. Sometimes there needs to be a little bit more segregation into actual. There needs to be a different title, not segregation. But yes, they are privateer teams, but there's a different level of privateers.
Privateer without being professional type of thing.
Of course it is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
know what you mean.
Totally agree on that. But no,
and also it's good that we obviously share. Me and Craig share the same
crew chief.
Yeah, Mark Hanna. I haven't worked with him yet, but Mark Hanna's coming into the team as a crew chief, and like a wealth of experience. One of the best blokes in the paddock for that job.
And the good thing about Mark is obviously he's dealt with the best, like as Craig discussed, and like. He sees a lot. Well, to work with someone, they have a huge say in who they want to work with. So, Mark to work with you is a huge compliment, and it's a huge compliment that he wants to work with Craig. And Craig, when I know you'll be listening to this, you'll definitely listen to his old pod. When I first met Craig, I thought he's going to stab someone dead. This lad, I thought he looks proper. Like, he was quite standoff, you know what I mean? I thought, bloody hell, you're going to be quite hard to get some crack out of. But then when you get, like, when I personally got to know him, he's salt. He's absolute salt of the earth. And I've got all the time in the world for him. And so does so many people. And he's got some very good, loyal sponsors on board, and that are elevating his career. And long may that last.
Absolutely.
He's a man of the future. Get behind Craig Neve.
We are.
Damn right.
Well, our next guest is, as you named him, Captain Kawasaki, Craig Watson from Kawasaki UK, and he got in touch with us to tell us about a new thing that Kawasaki are doing alongside Manx Radio, and I thought it may as well get him on the show himself, and he would, rather than taking it as second-hand information, get it straight from the horse's mouth. So without further ado,
you're called Mr. Captain Kawasaki a horse now, so is Horsey Kawasaki? Anyway, no, I'm only poking fun, but no.
Straight over to Captain Kawasaki. So great to be joined by Mr. Captain Kawasaki himself. How are you doing?
My new Christian name. Yeah, really good, thank you. Really good.
And obviously from down south, we're just wondering what your Geordie accent's like.
Go on, give us a sample.
Well, there's 3 or 4 words you can use, isn't there? There's Taramosalata. And of course, Kawasaki's the perfect word to learn, isn't it? Kawasaki.
Captain Kawasaki. Yeah.
So obviously, when I found out you listened to this podcast, I immediately dumped a load of my pants, because obviously I got to meet you and Chrissy at the same time down at the MCN London show, where you would present your stock 1000, and you were this well-spoken gentleman up on the stage with a microphone. And I'm going like that, going, yeah, who's this lad? Like, you know what I mean? What's going on? So obviously got to meet you after. And I totally ballsed up, and I totally forgot your name, and I just said, "What's your mate's name?" Captain Kawasaki. And obviously after the interview, I went, and it stuck. Now, what was your immediate reaction to hearing that? Because I just thought, I will never be able to ride a Kawasaki ever again.
Well, no, it was dead funny, because I was listening to that one. I was driving. My normal week involves travelling back up the road, either on a Thursday night or a Friday night back up from the office, and I was listening away, and it was the one that you'd written loads of names or something on a Toblerone.
Yeah, that's
and
it. Yeah.
You said something about I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about Peter Hickman's balls or something like that. And Captain Kawasaki. And I thought, who on earth is he on about? And obviously it then came out. And so from that point on, Tom Ward, that's all he ever says to me now.
Oh, spot on. So obviously, for the bike racing fans, obviously a lot of bike racing fans listen to our podcast. We've got some good news coming, sort of indirectly from Kawasaki, and obviously with the TT fast approaching, the no live racing taken this year. Do you want to sort of introduce the news?
So yeah, we got a phone call. Literally, it's happened really quick in the last week, 10 days. So I got a phone call from Jason Griffiths. You'll know Jason from his sort of Pirelli Metzler tie-up with BSB and TT and all the rest of it. But he's a dealer for us over in the Isle of Man. And he rang me up and said, look, no racing this year. Manx Radio TT are looking to put something together. Do you want to get involved? Made an introduction. And in simple form, because there isn't any racing, Manx Radio, what they're going to do is create 7 days of broadcasting from what would have been Friday morning of practice week through to 6 o'clock on what would have been senior race day. So 1 week's worth of broadcasting, 24 hours a day. And I mean, you've now been to the TT. Dom obviously been there loads. And I don't know what it's like, but I get into a hire car at the TT. And if you didn't even look at the screen, you turned on the radio, you can tell straight away if it's Manx Radio TT. It's got
Manx Radio TT.
Sound.
Welcome to Douglas. It's raining.
So that's the basics of it. Is try and give people a little bit of a TT fix. I mean, I usually go across to TT for race week. So either fly across on the Thursday or the Friday of practice week, and then I'm there for half a week or a week. But the bit that I'm not there, I'll be in the office, Ross Burridge will be in the office, and we'll have the radio on, linked, online to Manx Radio. We'll have live timing on the screen, and you are literally transported to the Isle of Man. You listen to that, you're there. So to be involved with it this year, it's going to be called Manx Radio Mountain Memories, powered by Kawasaki K-Options, so a bit like we do with BSB Radio.
Yeah. Now hold on. Now you're a fan of the show, and we're all about the rumour mill here. So come on, give us some tasters. What's it going to line up? Who have we got speaking? What's the plan?
Well, they've got loads going because they're going to be playing some real classic stuff. Haven't told me what yet. I'm kind of hoping there might be some Kawasaki wins in there, given we're sponsoring it. But
so they're going to replay races actually throughout the whole. Oh, brilliant!
And the commentary. So you'll have Fogarty Hislop, I imagine. You'll have Halewood. You'll have Agostini races. I know that they're going to do some stuff literally right the way back to 1907, 1911, that sort of time. I'm fairly sure the big races of the last couple of years will be in there. They'll be bringing out interviews that they've already done, from, I don't know, let's say a Hislop start line interview or something. But they've also asked for a handful of names of who we've thought would be good people to interview. I don't think they'll call you Dom, but I did put your name forward.
Oh, they'll call me a lot worse off air. I'm telling you that much. All right. Well, we'll see if the call comes in. That'll be interesting. I better watch my language. It's explicit show that we've got going here, Chrissy. Explicit. So I tell you what, though, right? If you are putting the sponsorship edge on this, you have an opportunity to rewrite history. You know what I mean? Joey Dunlop didn't win on a Honda. He won on a Kawasaki. Steve Hislop, not the Norton, a Kawasaki. You just want to get you to edit over every win. You know what I mean? You've got an opportunity. I can see his brain ticking over. I can see it.
I'll be putting in some special requirement that we've got a new editor, Mr. Rousset. You won't have heard of him before. Rousset is coming across to do some edits.
Oh, fabulous. And obviously, while we've got you on the line as well, it's a perfect opportunity. We've talked about the No Limits racing many times on this show. Obviously, I've been to No Limits, and this year, 2020, was shaping up to be quite a step up in terms of professionalism for the series. And obviously, you leaked a couple of your plans to us. About it, but do you want to just give people, obviously you race yourself, ADSS Kawasaki, do you want to just briefly explain sort of what the championship is, how it runs, and a little flavour of what you've got coming yourself this year?
Well, I suppose a tiny little wind back in history is I started racing 20-ish years ago. Wasn't particularly good, but a pal of mine who sort of turned into a best friend, he got really good, and I ended up sort of stopping doing my racing with lack of funds and lack of talent, and helped him do some British Supersport stuff and all the rest of it. And then obviously there's a big gap in between. And midlife crisis then kicks in, and the pair of us decided, instead of doing track days, why don't we start racing again? So we looked at the endurance series with the thought process of it being kind of like a track day with purpose. You're going to get loads and loads of riding done, but you're actually going to be racing. So instead of being on a track day and overtaking somebody and thinking, well, that was good, but maybe they weren't trying, that if you overtake somebody in a race, they are trying their hardest. So 2017, we had a bit of a go, did all right, enjoyed it. 2018, we did a bit better and got a couple of podiums. And last year, we won a couple of races and came second in the championship. And this year, we were faced with the logistics problem, if you like, of we were taking vans, we were taking caravans, we were taking trailers, and we wanted to sort of try and squeeze it all into one. So we've got a quite a big Luton van, should we say?
Luton van.
That must be brilliant at board meetings. You know what I mean? Yearly budget. Here comes Craig bursting down the door. Right, I've got a great idea. No limits racing. No one's leaving the room till they sign me the check right now.
So
I
Ross,
wish he was like that.
Sit down.
So roughly, what, like on a weekend, like say like a 6-hour race, just. We're used to doing, obviously, like the short circuits like that I do are like 20 minutes, road racing a little bit longer. But how does a 6-hour race work logistically? And is it a single transponder, different bikes? Sort of what happens if you have a little tip off?
So we do it. We do it 3, 6, 8, and 10 is how it's been formatted up to now. So a 3-hour race. Some people run it with 4 riders. Some people run it with 3. I do it just me and Chris. So there's me and Chris Platt, and we basically do a tank of fuel. And ideally, we try and make a tank of fuel last 45 minutes, and therefore we both get 2 stints. So I'm on for 45. I come in on my bike. I've got a transponder on there. There's somebody waiting in pit lane. And as soon as I pull up, they take the transponder off my bike, fit it to Chris's. He goes out. While he's out, I then maybe stick a new rear tyre in, fill it up with fuel, take a drink, sit, chill, get ready, and literally repeat that. And when we do a 6-hour, we'll have a third rider, and Darren Fry rides with us. He's the F out of FS3 Kawasaki. Really, really smooth rider and quite a safe pair of hands as opposed to Chris and I. And it's literally the same. So it's 1 rider out, 2 riders in pit lane, and you swap. But for instance, we did an 8-hour race a couple of years ago, and we had 2 of the lads from FS3 helping out on the spanners. They changed 22 sets of wheels that day because the rain was on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off.
Holy crap! And now, no limits. Now, obviously, any club rider can actually go and do this, can't they? So they can enter in, do this endurance championship. So is there a capped amount of tyres you can use, or is it's obviously a basic? You can only have minimum 2 riders, and you can have up to 4 plus.
4.
But there's no 4,
yeah,
right? You can have
4, maximum 4. But there's actually the reason it's so flat out and busy is there's 4 classes. This year there's actually going to be 5 classes within it. So you've got National 1000, which we ride in. Then you've got a Club 1000, so you've got to have a clubman's license. So there's usually quite a lot of people that have maybe even won clubman championships, and they've had a clubman license for 10 years. And the same for 600. So you've got National 600, Club 600, and I think this year they're introducing like a mini twin class. So SV 650s, Ninja 650s, those sort of bikes. And of course, at the long races, somehow you get the CB 500s out there. So on the wrong track, I would not ride one of those when you've got somebody overtaking you doing 70 mile an hour more than you're doing. It can't be nice.
So you are all on the track at the same time. So
Oh, yeah.
how many bikes can you have on? Like, okay, let's use Cadwell as an example. What is the max amount of bikes you can have out on track at Cadwell?
I'm not sure Cadwell. I think it's 40 odd at Cadwell in an
Wow.
endurance. But
And you're mixing in with 50 brake horsepower Hondas, and you're on
Yeah.
200 plus ZX10s.
Oh,
I
dear.
know at one of the 8 hours, I think there was 55 teams entered.
Wow. And what's the sort of protocol? Obviously, the race start is like a Le Mans start. So is the bike switched? Is the bike
Everything's quiet, should we say? So you got ignition on, and you do the drop the flag. You run across, jump on it. It's in gear, and you start the thing and get going as fast as you can.
And what's the crack with sort of red flags? Do you have a safety car to bunch everyone up? Like, how does it work if there's, say, something down on the track or serious injury?
So we've seen all of that, and Chris has actually caused one of them.
Hi, there's Chris. He's our next interviewed guest, by the way, so you best be careful.
Well, there's another one of your listeners in the Isle of Man, June Kinnish, and he'll be listening, giggling because he knows just how prevalent a crash is with Mr. Flat. But
don't spill your wine, young'un.
Basically, if you get a fairly dodgy incident, normal incidents are just held under yellow flag, and you no overtaking under that. A safety car comes out, and what you'll have is the leader of the race will have his number put out on a board, and it's his job to then create, or her job to create, a gap in front of them so that the safety car can fit in there and everybody queues up behind. The downside is if you're on a 1000cc bike and the safety car flags get put out, you can't overtake. And if you're behind somebody on a CB500, they could be trying their hardest, but they're never going to even catch up the bike in front of them. But red flag is red flag. You pull into pit lane. The bikes are allowed to go on warmers, but not plugged in. And then usually if there's a prolonged stoppage for, say, like fluid on the track, they'll maybe send you back to the garage, but they send you back out on track in the line that you came in on.
So here's a question. So in a safety car lap, so say the lap before you pulled in, need a wheel change or change a rider, and a safety car lap gets deployed, shall we say, because you're in the pit, do you have to stay in the pit, or can you read?
It's like the worst thing ever is pulling in under a safety car.
So they could be doing 10 laps, and then you've lost them 10 laps.
Yeah.
Oh dear. And also, obviously, with British weather, we can have days where it's like spitting on and off all day. Do you have who's the brains of the team who comes up with the sort of tactics? And also, obviously, a weatherman is like the key component in an endurance team for some days. Do you have a specific like app that you use, or do you contact the local airport, or like what's your tactics for that?
You'll have contacts with NASA, him, man.
Well, to tell you how professional we clearly are, the 6 hour at Donington last year, Lee Jackson came and stood in for Chris because Chris had broken his wrist at Cadwell. And so we're there. I think the race was due to start at, let's say, 1 o'clock or something like that. And we were stood chatting. I'd drawn the short straw. I was going to do the start. I set off down pit lane, and I got to the end of pit lane, and I looked at the sky, and I thought, that looks like rain. So I stopped, and I looked at Redgate, and I'm thinking, that is raining. It's tipping it down. I've got slicks on. So I thought, well, there's no point going on at the grid. So I pulled round through the scrutineering bay, pulled back into the garage, and they only then decided, bearing in mind you've got 3 bikes parked up, they only then decided to put a set of wheels in. So they got thrown in another bike. I jumped on it, having never ridden this thing before, and had to go out and form the grid. Because we missed pit lane, we'd qualified on pole, courtesy of Lee Jackson, and we were then at the back of the grid. But I'm not going to tell you how that race ended.
I was actually there, and I remember the start of the race. You were steaming through in the wet, and I remember Luke Hedger forgot to put his transponder on, so he went steaming through, but then had to come into pit lane, and it was all drama. Considering it's like a 6-hour race, the first 10 minutes was
It's
all
what
action.
you consider crucial in any endurance race. And these lads
me and Luke Hedger started at the back. So he was literally one bike in front of me. And I thought to myself, well, this would be perfect. He rides British Championship. I'll just follow him. But like a buffoon, I went down Craner, following him, thinking he isn't going very fast. So I overtook him, overtook some more. And I finished the first lap in 4th place, having started in 45th or something. And I thought, this is easy. Finished the next lap in the lead, didn't make the 3rd lap.
Where did you go? Donington's notoriously slippy in the wet. Where did you go down?
Well, I didn't go down. I went up first. McLean's.
Easily done. Obviously, the Manx Radio crack. Where's can people listen to it? What's the best way?
So there's 3 different ways, I reckon. There's the normal way, which is if you're over on the Isle of Man, you just download the Manx Radio app, and you can listen on it. Or you just, if you're on your desktop and you're working, like most people are at the moment from home, just go on Manx Radio website, which is manxradio.com, and just click on the AM player. Mm-hmm. Or somebody from Manx Radio told me you can literally just speak at Alexa and say, Alexa, play Manx Radio AM. So not FM, AM. And she will play you Manx Radio, can't call it TT, Manx Radio. Mountain Memories.
Mountain Memories.
Memories. There we go.
I'm looking forward to that. And thanks very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, and look forward to catching up whenever the lockdown's lifted. And if the No Limits thing does get going, obviously, very best of luck in that. And looking forward to watching you dishing out some portions down Craner Curbs again.
I was about to say, if anyone really wants some entertainment, don't go watch Chrissy Rouse. I think where the action's at is watching Captain Kawasaki himself going hooling round up an airborne division. So there we go.
Excellent. Well,
no bother. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
Good work. Cheers.
Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.
So it sounds like a good little initiative for the TT fans, at least something, to listen to, and a trip down memory lane, I think.
And he sounds like quite the dab hand on a motorcycle, doesn't he?
I've been out on track, or watched Craig at them No Limits meetings, and he's a good rider.
There we go. Absolutely brilliant. So you're back at work now, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been back quite a while now, but just working from home. And I think with the lockdown, sometime soon it will be going back into school, I'd imagine, but I'm not sure when and what the crack with that is. But yeah, other than that, just I've been doing a few deliveries in the van, just keep myself busy. And hopefully we'll get a few good podcasts lined up for the next few weeks.
Awesome. Hey, time is on our side, Young, and time is on our side. But
just before we go as well, we've been doing a few Netflix suggestions, and this wasn't on Netflix, but I watched, do you know Chernobyl?
I've heard it's brilliant though.
It's all about obviously the nuclear power station that exploded,
meltdown,
and it was kind of what finished the Soviet Union stuff. Really interesting. I think it was about 5 episodes, and that's on Amazon Prime. I would 100% recommend watching it. Really, really good watch.
I tell you what, your dad was recommending that F1 Drive to Survive.
I've not seen that.
Oh, honestly, it's brilliant. Now, I didn't watch telly. I'm too hyperactive to watch telly, flashing lights and loud noises. It gets me going like a dodgy Alsatian. But anyway, like, brilliant program. Now, I'm not, but like, I'm not into my car racing whatsoever. I really am not. But it is a brilliant, it's a Netflix original documentary. And it is fantastic. It's over. There's 2 seasons, so it's the 18 season, the 19 season. It is absolutely awesome, without a doubt. And it just shows like the hunger and how ruthless the game is, and it's very similar to what we get. Like, what
the sort of buzz from
it's not only the buzz. It's like the pressure, like the pressure of keeping. Like, especially like when you look at you, Chrissy, you know what I mean? MSS, you're at the high end of it. You really are at the high end, but you need to stay up at that level or you'll lose your seat, and that's what it's like in F1. So
I tell you what, another thing that I watched was the what was it? The David Jeffries thing. I think that's on Amazon Prime as well. Goes through all of it. David Jeffries TT wins.
Really?
That's a really
That's
good
Amazon
watch.
Prime. I'll have to watch that then. There we go.
Right, we're diversified from bike racing
To cars and well, at least you saved it with David Jeffries. Thank God. There you go. There you are. Awesome.
But anyway, have a fantastic week, and we'll catch up again next week.
See you in a bit, son.